Hi, everybody. Feel free to watch. I finally got the camera looking. I hope I got the camera right, but y'all can see it. So I tried this exercise and I did kind of good on the first try. So we're going to see how I do again as I think about my mistakes. So I'm doing this watercolor exercise that the guy is teaching here. It's a flower exercise. So let's see here. So I know the very first thing he says lightly spray the paper. And then in with some bright red with my brush flat on its side. He's using bright red. I'm going to use something else. I actually did like the purple. He's using a flat brush. I do got to make sure my brush is loaded. And he says, have your brush on the side. And a big blob of clean water dropped in. Okay. This is what he's saying. Then when he went over here, he kind of went like this. Okay, so for this last exercise, we're really going to loosen up and just see what happens. My colours are cadmium red. Now I'm using magenta, but any pinkish colour will do. Sap green and Payne's grey. And just two brushes from my range, number 12 and number 6 round. I'm going to lightly spray the paper first, but not saturating it. So he goes around. Bright red with my brush flat on its side. Okay, he's keep doing it on strokes. And a big blob of clean water dropped in. Okay, a big blob of clean water dropped in. That's not a lot. Hey, he's dropping it in the middle. Straight in with some Payne's grey and let it bleed into the flower above. We'll figure out what's going on here. Some clean water again. I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, okay, and no fiddling. Hansi, don't do this every time I get on, babe. This is why you mess me up. I can't do this because my cat won't. This wasn't over enough. There we go. That's better. I'm dropping in a much cooler pinky color into the wet wash. Okay. And a few little dabs here with a tissue to create some texture to the petals. Super wet, flat on its side. Big, bold strokes. And a big blob of clean water dropped in. I noticed he was still fixing it. Straight in with some Payne's grey and let it bleed into the flower above. Now, some clean water again. I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, yeah, no fiddling. Maybe I want a red one. I don't want mine's identical to his. Here I'm dropping in a much cooler pinky colour into the wet wash. And a few little dabs here with a tissue to create some texture to the petals. feel like that's not even red enough.
More dabs of clean water into the damp wash. Now for the leaves and stems, paint spray again.
I need some more water.
Introducing in a little bit of sap green into the wet. And of course, a little bit of splattering.
I'm going by what I feel when I'm doing it. So I'm not exactly doing it identical to how he's saying, but I am doing it similar. So all these different bottles of water he got me working with is something else. So he says, let it bleed. Okay. Okay. But he's using a darker color. I do feel like this needs to be maybe a little bit controlled, just a little bit. Okay. So see, he went back up there. He's telling people to do something, and it's like, okay, bro, you went back to the top
again. You can
again.
see here, now that it's totally dried, these lovely effects. As I said before, it's just something you couldn't possibly try and paint. So, for the final little detail, I'm going to add in with a touch of white gouache, just to define a couple of the petals here.
What is that? He's using some pencil. Ooh, okay. He's actually using a pencil of some kind. So I do see talk about you can control the water flow. I mean, you get. This is a little heavy. I probably needed a smaller brush. But it is what it is. Hi, everybody. I'm trying to make sure. He says let it run like it wants to run. So that's what I'm gonna do. If some of the black goes into that petal, oh well. That's what he said, y'all. Okay, I kind of like how it went dark on that side. Leave it like that. Now, what are you talking about dabbing?
Cadmium red. Now I'm using magenta, but any pinkish colour will do. Sap green and Payne's grey. And just two brushes from my range, number 12 and number 6 round.
I think I might want some yellow there, though.
I'm going to lightly spray the paper first, but not saturate.
Yeah, I feel like.
And then in with some bright red with my brush flat on its side. Big, bold strokes. And a big blob of clean water dropped in. Straight in with some.
I'm not doing mine the same as his.
Lead into the flower above.
Woo!
Now, some clean water again. I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, and no fiddling.
This is different. I do like how I put the yellow in the
Here
middle.
I'm dropping in a much cooler pinky colour into the wet wash. And a few little dabs here with a tissue to create some texture to the petals. More dabs of clean water into the damp wash. Now for the leaves and stems, paint spray again, introducing in.
I felt like I wanted to do it my way, y'all.
And of course, a little bit of splattering.
But he said,
And you can see here, now that it's totally dried, these lovely effects. As I said before, it's just something you couldn't possibly try and paint. So, for the final little detail, I'm going to add in with a touch of white gouache, just to define a couple of the petals here.
I didn't do the petals yet.
There we go, all done, this time in just under 10 minutes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did and you give all three of them a go. And always remember, you don't have to copy mine exactly, just make them your own. And as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, it is free. Leave a comment, I do read every single one. And I'd always like to say
I'm learning about water control, y'all. So that's what he's talking about.
so, take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again next week for another Watercolor Wednesday. Bye for now. Good morning,
Okay. I probably should have. Let me see what he's talking about here. Oh, I see what he's saying. Okay. I was a little bit scared to use the napkin, but now I know why he say to use it. Yeah. He's saying just to add a little bit of crackliness to the to the flour. Okay. I do want to lift some of the water off of it. I want to leave that gray. Okay. I like the abstract look that is starting to happen here. I'm gonna get better at the water control. So, okay. Now he talks about hi everybody. Now I think I'm on just free. He talk about adding the leaves, so I guess, but it looks like he has still branches on the
So
leaves.
flat brush here and a very
Mine don't look like his. I went with my own emotions, y'all. Okay, so okay, so he do add some green there. Let me get some clean water. I do gotta do some more dabbing on this picture. I'm looking at it from a distance. I do like how I decided to go with the red there. Okay.
good morning, afternoon.
Uh,
What happened?
I think it might have dried, so I might have to.
Bit of splatter.
Ah, well, I'm gonna leave that just like that. But I think I'll do a bleed.
And you can see here, now that it's totally dried, these lovely effects. As I said before, it's just something you couldn't possibly try and paint. So, for the final little detail, I'm going to add in with a touch of white gouache just to define a couple of the petals here.
Whew. Okay. Hans, you sitting here whining in my ear the whole time, Bubba.
This time in just under 10 minutes.
You're acting like too attached.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. You give all three of them a go. And always remember, you don't have to copy mine exactly, just make them your own. And as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already.
So I think he was going from like, I went a little heavy, but oh well. I'm gonna leave it just like that. If it bleed, it bleed. I think I'm gonna go. Okay. But I think he wants it to bleed still. He says let it bleed into it. All right. Where's the clean water? I think I need to put, okay. I really enjoyed this exercise. I should have, let me drop some. I actually want that to stay dark. Okay. I love the way this felt playing with the learning about water dropping, using the water that's already on the page. This was really interesting. It definitely requires a lot more patience than was in than yeah. I'm trying to see what he talking about with that red with the napkin he talking about. Napkin technique. Trying to see what I can do while it's still wet. Okay. I gotta let it dry though, y'all. I think it's a nice abstract. It actually turned out better than I thought. I wasn't going for like looking identical to an actual flower because that's not what he wanted us to do. He wanted us to see how the see how everything works. I do want to do some dabbing though, because that's not actually completely dry. It's a little bit. I feel like that had a little bit too much black. Watercolor is so interesting to look at. Like when you play with it enough, you be like, okay, it's one of those things. I feel like I really didn't want all that green there. Let me see. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of I'm kind of connecting with it now. Okay, y'all, that was fun. This is kind of how it turned out. Ah, y'all was just learning. I was practicing what he was saying. It's my abstract. I noticed that his stuff, he's not overlapping. When he does, it's like only water that he actually goes over again, or he goes with a different color because he's not actually doing an abstract. He looks like he's kind of doing abstract and so this is the first one I did. This is the first one I did, y'all. That's the first one. Now the interesting, I didn't like this too much, and now that it dried, I like it better. It just goes to show um how things look after it dry. Like watercolor is like funny like that. Now I could crackle it. I think it might need to crackle just to add it a little bit more. Let's see what happens. I put a couple little splashes on it to see what it do. But the splashes are going to dry, y'all. When they dry, I guess it'll look more crackly. I love to see how the colors will turn out once they're really dry. I felt like the second one I was under too much. I was controlling it still, and I didn't know I was at the beginning. This one I felt like I was just going by how I felt, and I felt like it told a story, even though I didn't even think it was going to. I guess intuitive drawing. So I'm seeing the cracks come. So the cracks are looking good. I see some of the cracks forming near like there with the water splashes. Okay. My thing, as soon as I get better at loading my brush, because I feel like I be like not putting enough paint on it. So I'm gonna do the peer exercise this time, y'all. I'm gonna do this peer exercise I saw on YouTube. Okay, I've been ready to get out this peer exercise. I did do a little practice of it. I could show y'all it. Y'all want to see it? It actually dried already. Here's the peer I did, y'all. See the peer? Kind of like what I did, but I want to do it again. Now he has an apple. He has an apple, and I feel like I want to do the apple. The apple exercise seemed like it's okay. This is wet on wet, y'all. This is wet on wet. Let's see what happens here.
The blue that you saw in my dish, we love it, and I have a class doing that. Now, my leaves are
She's using a pointy brush with this one.
why, well, it means what it says. Really, your government is quite a moral task. So I'm
Okay.
and happy also means bright and bold colors. And summer is coming, and this color combo reminds me of summer. So I will be listing all the supplies that I used in the description, but just very briefly, I'm using green gold, table cyanide turquoise.
Okay, so she doing that little leaf thingy.
Transparent pyro orange.
We'll see what happens.
It's great. The blue that you saw in my dish. I used it a little bit, but mixed in with Payne's gray. Okay, so what does wet to wet means? Well, it means what it says. Really, you're adding wet paint to wet paint or wet paint to clear water.
Wet paint to wet paint or wet paint to clear water. She broke it down better than anybody else.
It's wet to wet, right? And bold colors. And summer is coming, and this color combo reminds me of summer. So I will be listing all the supplies that I used in the description, but just very briefly, I'm using green gold, table cyanide turquoise, um, transparent pyro orange, as well as Payne's gray, the blue that you saw in my dish. Um, I I used it a little bit, but mixed in with Payne's
She,
gray.
she said
Okay, so
wet paint on
what does
paint.
wet to wet means? Well, it means what it says. Really, you're adding wet paint to wet paint or wet paint to clear water. There are many ways to achieve, or there are many ways to practice wet to wet. I will link for you one. Um, and this one, I call this anything goes, meaning that you're not going to pay attention to the amount of water or wet paint you're adding. Um, it will, some areas will dry faster than others, which means that it will create a watermark. Uh, and this is the look that I was going for. The reason why you get those watermarks is
She said
because
anything goes, so we'll see.
and you're adding wet paint around it, the paint will always walk towards the water, and as soon as it meets a dry spot, it stops there. And this is where you see.
Oh, okay. So it's going to keep on going. Okay. It's so interesting when you listen to the teacher. So she said it doesn't matter how much water on this one.
And it creates so much texture. I just absolutely love it. And I had a blast doing that. Now, my leaves are, uh, I don't know what they are. They're just my interpretation of a loose leaf. Uh, Please come up with your own if you want to recreate this, if you want to practice. The one thing, though, that I would caution you about is the choice of colors. Because I have orange and blue in my palette, I needed to be mindful of that because blue and orange, it creates brown when it's wet. So that was a no-no. That's why I paired it with green gold, which, unbeknownst to me, played really nicely, and I was really happy about that. Um, I always, of course, like to add contrast. So
Hey,
various color that I use.
I messed up.
These colors. And
I don't
this,
know.
this
I
one,
went too big, but she said anything goes. Okay.
like I said, as long as your paint is wet, you can keep adding um, more color. There's one thing too, one other thing too, though, if I may add. Um, Try not to over mix your colors because what that's going to do is you're going to end up with kind of like a homogenized color.
Okay.
I
So let's
really
do
want
this
to keep
again.
the colors distinct.
The
So
way she does that brush
like
so
I said,
effortlessly like
merging
that,
a couple of
they make
colors,
it seem so.
the next one, maybe one color, that sort of thing. Of course, the splashes, those were necessary. I think they look great. I really, really like this tiny
I
painting. It's
had the
actually
brush
easier
stroke.
for me to.
Let me
Um,
do it again.
um,
Because I
so
feel like she's curving her brush
this
too when
one
she
is really
starts.
this anything goes in a morning task. So I needed happy,
Okay.
and happy is
Oh, okay.
bright and bold colors. And summer is coming, and this color combo reminds me of summer. So I will be listing all the supplies that I used in the description, but just very
Okay,
briefly,
that's better.
plain gold,
I have to be a
faded
little bit lighter
turquoise,
with my hand. I see what you're saying.
transparent pyro orange, as well as Payne's gray, the blue that you saw in my dish. Um, I I used it a little bit, but mixed in with Payne's gray. Okay, so what does wet to wet means? Well, it means what it says really. You're adding wet paint to wet paint or wet paint to clear water. There are many ways to achieve, or there are
Okay,
many
I'm
ways
getting
that you
better
can
at the
display
brush,
your
I
art.
see.
I'm only going to show you one. Um,
If you're using ChatGPT but don't know how to monetize it, watch this video to the end. All right, step one, go to Amazon and search for books that are selling at least 5 copies a day and have less than 50 reviews. That means that the topic is selling on Amazon without many reviews, and that's what we like to see. Step number two is to use an AI writing tool to write your own
Okay,
prose.
I just did a
Now,
leaf. I
there
don't
are
even
a lot of
know.
good AI
Or
writers out
whatever it
there,
is.
but most of them are not meant for full length books, which is why we created our own tool called Publishing.ai, which can research and write a full 150-page manuscript for you in less than 2 hours. And if you're worried that AI can't possibly write a book that's good, it can. Most people, not even professional editors, can tell it's
She
quality.
says wet
Now,
on
rather
wet.
than just telling you, because I know talk is cheap, I want you to see this with your own eyes. When you tap on this video, you're going to see how
Anything
all this
goes.
works, and you're going to be blown away by what is possible with AI. Janet here used our AI to write her book, and she says,
I read it completely, and the content was so good, and that thing is selling like crazy.
now, once you've proofread and edited your book, step number three is to create your cover, which we use a tool called Ideogram to do, and then we publish it on Amazon and Audible as an ebook, a print book, and an audiobook. That is three new ways that people can be buying your book. Then step number four is to give away your book for free in relevant Facebook groups to start getting reviews on Amazon. These first reviews are the momentum you need to start generating real sales. Now, I obviously can't cover everything in this short video, but if you want to learn more about how we've helped thousands of people who have never published books before go on and collectively sell millions of dollars in books on Amazon, then tap the button on your screen, enter your email, and get instant access to our free video presentation where you'll high quality books faster than ever, and how to monetize your book and sell
Wow.
it on Amazon,
Who
Audible, and
knew?
all over the world. Even if you've never in your life considered publishing a book, you should. Because book publishing is a $150 billion industry, and it's never been easier to get in on the action, especially with our guidance. Now, if you're skeptical about AI or who we are, I get it. But our company is publishing.com. We were named
I
the
don't even want to
fastest
hear her
growing
mouth.
software company in America.
And this one, I call this anything goes. Meaning that you're not going to pay attention to the amount of water or wet paint you're adding. Um, it will, some areas will dry faster than others, which means that it will create a watermark. And this is the look that I was going for. The reason why you get those watermarks is because when an area dries and you're adding wet paint around it, the paint will always walk towards the water, and as soon as it meets a dry spot, it stops there. And this is where you see a dilution. So for that style of painting, that's what I was going for. I embraced it. I love it. It gives it that unplanned look and it creates so much texture. I just absolutely love it. And I had a blast doing that. Now, my leaves are, I don't know what they are. They're just my interpretation of a leaf. Please come up with your own if
Okay,
you
did
want
that
to
just
do
come
this,
off?
if you want to practice. The one thing though that I would caution you about is the choice of colors.
I'm just learning about the looking at what he's. I'm just practicing what he's talking about dropping the water, the different effects that the water could do. So I want to know what would happen if I did it that way. So, so see how it came out brown this time. Okay. Just learning how the colors, how with the water drops and all that other stuff. Dude. I do want to. I do want to practice. Let me do this pear again. I think I'm gonna save some paper. Ah, really? I washed this brush and it's not even clean. So he was saying, let me go ahead and pull the video up. It's, here we go.
As a beginner, I used to mix all my colors on the palette. But over time, I realized that giving up a bit of control is what makes watercolor so exciting. That's why a lot of artists use individual puddles of colors on the palette and then pick up 2 or 3 colors with the brush and let the mixing happen on the paper. You can take that even a step further and paint one color first, then pick up the next color and drop it in wet on wet. Same colors, but very different effects. Which one's your favorite? As a beginner, I used to mix all my colors on the palette first in an attempt to have more control over the outcome and get really nice smooth colors. But over time, I realized that giving up a bit of control is what makes watercolor so exciting. That's why a lot of artists use individual.
Mm. We got people watching here. I guess some people like the abstract, huh? So this is the next color, y'all.
Pick up 2 or 3 colors with the brush and let the mixing happen on the paper.
This is wet on wet.
Step further and paint one color first, then pick up the next color and drop it in wet on wet. Same colors, but very different effects. Which one's your favorite? As a beginner, I used to mix all my colors on the palette first in an attempt to have more control over the outcome and get really nice smooth colors. But over time, I realized that giving up a bit of control is what makes watercolor so exciting. That's why a lot of artists use individual puddles of colors on the palette and then pick up 2 or 3 colors with the brush and let the mixing happen on the paper. You can take that even a step further and paint one color first, then pick up the next color and drop it in wet on wet. Same colors,
But he dropped it in.
Which one's your favorite?
I was painting
As a
it.
beginner, I used to mix all my colors on the palette
Okay.
first in an attempt to have more control over the outcome and get really nice smooth colors. But over time, I realized.
He said wet on wet. Okay, it's wet on wet. He says drop it in. They say drop it in, but then I see them brushing. I'm confused. Or you say drop it in and I see you brushing. Mm, uh-uh. No, I dropped it and it didn't do nothing but mess it up. I don't know. He's talking about. He's talking about dropping it in. I dropped it in just now. Uh, uh, I still saw his brush painting. He's talking about dropping it in, but I'm still seeing his brush like moving in motion. It's always something. What on what now? And I gotta go ahead and see what this do. Confusing me. I dropped it in. Okay, we're gonna just keep on dropping like he said. He said drop, we dropping. I'm tapping and dropping. This is a flat brush. I don't like what happened with this picture, but I got a feeling it's one of those pictures that's going to actually not look bad once it dries. I already know. So I'm going to let it dry, y'all. They want to pick up some of the water there. I literally dropped it in and it looked like it just got worse. And then I'm going to go back in here and just leave it, let the red just stay there dropped, y'all. See what it do. I love to experiment with colors, even when I'm doing poetry. I wonder what it's gonna look like when it dries. I'm really gonna work on that flower painting though. This right here, I'm gonna go in on. I'm gonna do this again, but I'm gonna stick with it being abstract. I like the layers. I like how abstract that look. I'm gonna do it one more time, but this time I'm not gonna over layer. I'm gonna see what happens when I don't put the brush on top of the brush. with the flower. Let's see. So excited to see what happens here. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I put that other one over there to dry to see what it's going to look like. This is what I do, y'all. Instead of eating, instead of running and surfing online, instead of talking, I do artistic stuff like we used to do in the 90s. Because it's just, to me, it's just, oh, okay. Strange thing is this is not staying steady, bro. Okay. This is what we did in the 90s because there was no YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, none of that. So we just did arts and crafts at this time. Normally we had art classes at this time in school if we was in a school program or we was outside or we had gym. But a lot of people are just listening to people all day when they need to be having some fun. Okay, I'm gonna do this again.
Okay, so for this last exercise, we're really going to loosen up and just see what happens.
So I'm gonna have him on the thingy.
Colors are cadmium red. Now I'm using
I don't have his
magenta,
colors,
pinkish color,
but we'll do what we gotta do.
sap green and Payne's grey, and just 2 brushes from my range, number 12 and number 6 round. I'm going to lightly spray the paper first, but not saturating it. And then in with some bright red with my brush flat on its side.
So
Big, bold strokes, and a big blob of clean water dropped in. With my brush flat, brushes from my range, number 12 and number 6 round. I'm going to lightly spray the paper first, but not saturating it. And then in with some bright red with my brush flat on its side. Big, bold strokes, and a big blob of clean water dropped in.
So I'm not going to layer. He says a big glob of clean water dropped in.
Straight in with
That's
some
what I did.
and let it bleed into the flower above.
Okay. That's exactly what I did. And it's still going over it. I think he's adding the water where the closure is. Like I think he's adding the water right there. And he's not actually saying that he is. Okay. Okay. I guess I'll leave it like that. He said, I wanted to make it a little bit uneven. I'm learning flowers, y'all.
Clean water again. I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, and no fiddling.
Did he go in over that?
I'm just dragging this with some Payne's grey and let it bleed into the flower above.
I did let it bleed. Okay.
straight in with some Payne's Grey.
I think that he
into the flower above. Now, with some clean water again, I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, and no fiddling.
I need to add some water. I'm gonna have to get 3 cups because I be getting confused with the
Here, I'm dropping in.
No, he says drop of water there. He says blending. He is going over it wet on wet. He's going over this. I saw water just now. I just saw more red.
Here I'm dropping in a much cooler pinky colour into the wet wash. And a few little dabs here with a tissue to create some texture to the petals.
You still got to know how to do this.
More dabs of clean water into the damp wash. Now for the leaves and stems, Payne's Grey again, but introducing in a little bit of sap green into the wet.
I think I gotta go ahead and take some of this out, like he said. There we go. I feel like my brush was like more. Let me see here. Maybe a little softer. I feel like the dry brush was something that I liked. Dry on dry. I mean, this is all good, but I feel like let me see what he see because my brush seemed drier than his. My brush seemed drier than his. Okay. I think I'm gonna do dry on dry, like the one lady say she liked to do. Cause I feel like I go dry, like when I just deal with dry on dry, I feel like I'm in my element more than but when I do it as an abstract, then I'm in my element. But when I do dry on dry, it works out better. For me, it does. So we're gonna see here. Dry on dry. Um, semi-dry, I guess, or dry on wet. I mean dry on wet. Try to dry on wet, and then I'll add some cracklies to see what happens here. I love experimenting like this. I need to look up some dry on wets because I felt like every time I do it, I want to go there. Okay. Well, wet on dry, but I feel like I don't like my brush really, really wet. We'll see what happens here. Oh, okay. Not. I see what I'm. See what he's saying though, but still. The cats are literally jumping on me. Flick, you're not Flick. Stop jumping on me. This is why y'all keep messing me up. He says with the flat brush. That's what I'm doing, but I feel like it's not turning out like he said. I still think he needs to talk to people about using their brush because I feel like, y'all. So he said the flat brush, but I did it, but it's like turning out as some other type of flower. Okay. Okay.
And then in with some bright red with my brush flat on its side. Big, bold strokes, and a big blob of clean water dropped in.
He don't tell them like, oh, your flower has to be slanted. He's just saying just go in with a bold stroke and that's it. That's all he's saying though. And then he does close it.
Okay, so for this last exercise, we're really going to loosen up and just see what happens. My colours are cadmium red. Now I'm using magenta, but any pinkish colour will do. Sap green and Payne's grey. And just two brushes from my range, number 12 and number 6 round.
That's kind of like what he did.
First,
y'all.
not saturating it. And then in with some bright red.
And he does go round.
Flat on its side. Big, bold strokes. And a big blob of clean water dropped in.
And he's doing this too. So big ball of clean water dropped in.
Straighten with some Payne's grey and let it bleed into the flower above. Now, with some clean water again.
Some Payne's grey. I'm going to go with a red. So he said water, but I just did that. I don't know. I think he's going too fast as well, and that's not helping. That was not helping. I did like how it was started. See this one when it's dry, this looks better now that it's kind of dry. I don't know. They look better dry. They look better dry. All right, y'all. I got to get to my event. I'm gonna ask him questions because I'm asking him how come he's not saying what direction to move your brush. He's just saying bold strokes, but what he's not saying is the direction to move your brush. I mean, is he saying just like plain old bold stroke? Okay, one last experiment, then I'm gonna ask him some questions. We're gonna go with a smaller one here. They look so much better when they're dry. I'm gonna go here. He's talking about bold strokes, okay? But he's turning his brush though. Okay, that looks bold. That's what he said.
Now, with some clean water again, I'm just dragging this down, super wet, lots of blending, and no fiddling.
That's what I did.
Here, I'm dropping in a much cooler pinky colour into the wet wash. And a few little dabs here with a tissue to create some texture to the petals. More dabs of clean water into the damp wash. Now for the leaves and stems, Payne's grey again, but introducing in a little bit of sap green into the wet. And of course, a little bit of splattering.
I gotta get ready to go, but I'm still here painting. Still here painting. This guy got me in here still painting. He needs to tell people that they have to wait for it to dry. He didn't say that, and you do for that part. So I feel like he wasn't actually all the way on his tutorial. He was skipping over some steps. Oh, he said wet on wet. I feel like it changed. Okay, I do feel like he didn't say before you go on wet on wet on wet, you need to let it dry. He didn't say that. And I felt like that was like something he needed to say. And then he said let it do what it want to do, and I did, and it went crazy right there. It seems like every time I learned something new. Cause the wet that was drying pretty quick. Okay, y'all, I have to go to my I have to get some writing done because y'all know that's what I primarily do naturally. I do draw pretty well, and I color in drawings pretty well. Like I could paint in drawings. I could do color pencil in drawings. But I think I'm gonna stick with the I think when it comes to watercolor, I think I'm gonna stick with the wet on wet or dry on dry. I don't really like all the wet, dry, dry, wet. I think that's starting to get confuse me. So it's either gonna be wet on wet or dry on dry or something of that nature. I'm really just finding my medium preferred style. When I was doing this one and I was doing spontaneous, this is spontaneous art. I liked it. So I might need to focus on doing going spontaneous and not actually just doing it the way the teacher say, but like kind of like focusing on doing it with my intuition. Because when I was going with my intuition, the pieces were going better. That just goes to show. Okay, bye everybody.